What's raging, gamers? Welcome to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
It's Wednesday. It's time to rage. I'm feeling great.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we've had like probably the most bipolar weather ever in Southern California. And I think that is some of the chaos that May brings in the world of video games. We got so much to unpack. But before we even begin, we just want to say thank you for everybody that's always tuning in live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because without your support, gamers, this show would not be possible. So, HenricK, what do? We like to start off the show with the bang. You know it. and show you guys a lot of viral content that is circulating all across the World Wide Web. So let's get it. So Grand Theft Auto 6's second trailer just racked up over 475 million views, proving millennial men do care deeply about due dates, just not the kind you're thinking. Priorities have been set, and let's just say diapers are not involved.
Yeah, Mom, we finally got it. We got the due date. I know. May 26, 2026, next year. We're really excited. Typically 9 months. No, Mom, this is about GTA 6. The release date, next year. Look, I don't care about the baby.
Priorities, right?
Priorities, gotta get them straight. You know, we've been waiting a very, very long time, all right? Some of these cats, you know, they've been waiting so long, they probably weren't even born when Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was out. You know what I mean? So, like, it really means a lot to us millennial men, okay? Don't tease us all, okay? Some of us are still single after all, like your boy Chris Collins. But anyways, I plan on being unemployed next May. You know, will companies understand that we do need to take our 2-week vacation early, maybe 4 weeks?
I don't know about that. They might not take too kindly to it. Depends.
A little too early,
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, we're not old enough to say that. Like, maybe we have a high school, you know, kid who's graduating. We need to be at that graduation. College graduation. Name something, help a brother out. And then, bro, I was 12 when GTA 5 dropped. I'm 25 with a wife and a daughter. Wow. That's real, man. Hey,
yeah, I mean, that much time really has passed, though.
That's pretty wild. And then I've been waiting for the release longer than I've known her. Yeah, it can be like that sometimes. But you know what's a very fun game? I don't know if anybody's ever heard about it. It's called Repo, and your job is to gently extract priceless objects for your mysterious overlord. And this online horror game teaches players the importance of teamwork, precision, and not sneezing near highly sensitive objects. And let's just say the mission went with from, you know, handle with care. And I don't think we have a zip code for anybody to find us anymore.
Oh, is he gone? I was gonna get rid of him for you.
Is that a freaking nuclear bomb?
Yeah, I was gonna drop it.
that is what happens when you tell the boys, all right, we got to lock in.
There's always that teammate
this time.
There's always that teammate that never locks in, right? I mean, whether it's even Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, PUBG, you name it. It's like, we all said we were going to land at this location, okay? Or you get the one doofus that's like, we only needed to go 100 more feet, man. Why did you drop the nuke? Well, let's dive right on into the comments, because nuclear bomb. Oh, yep, pretty much. I see what you did there.
Yeah, and then was a killer bomb.
And then, I was going to drop it. The famous last words. Don't ever let that be your famous last words. You know what, HenricK, for fun, what would be your famous last words?
Oh,
oh shit, here we go again. And then now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Oh yeah, Oppenheimer. And then, you know, you also get, you know, awesome videos like this. And I know sometimes gamers are known to guard their consoles like ancient relics, but one sibling cracked open a Nintendo Switch and found a digital shrine of unhinged dedication, courtesy of a custom Mii characters that are so detailed that your character creation screen becomes a full-time job. I mean, you know it's serious when it looks like this.
No. I thought you made them. Uncle, Mom, Lizard Man, Mrs. Man, Manly Man, Girly Man. creepy man, snail man, man of man, stalker man, old man, mantastic, Superman, Superman. 11. Tiny man, Manzoto, Mr. Man 2, Kyla. Kyla, Man Food, Player, those are people. Bob Man, Eat, Fantastic, Hooters, Smile, Mr. Man, D-Man, Blood Man, Mr. Boy, Bulky Man, Aw Man, Eat Man, Manny Man, Man, Diamantant, SS Man, Manisis, Secret Man, I don't know who this is, Fat Man, Mean Man, Toad, Alien Man, Mr. Manhood, Family Man, Mrs. Man, Lizard Man, Girly Man, Poopy Butt, Uncle Mom.
Step aside, Spider-Verse. We got the man-verse.
We got the man-verse. Who would have thought that maybe the Super Mario Bros. Movie has some competition after all?
Oh, maybe.
We have the man-verse here to, kind of reign supreme after all. But let's dive right on into the comments because he had way too much time on his hand. Did he?
For real.
Did you, HenricK? I thought that would have been pretty legendary. I mean, could you imagine opening that up and being able to play, some, Super Mario Kart, and then you get to pick out of this entourage of characters like Lizard Man, Mean Man?
It is a one-of-a-kind experience, you could say.
Yeah, that's a pure dedication. You just better hope that some of that memory translates into your Switch too. And then you also get let that dog outside. Does he bark? I don't know. Sit boy. And then last, I thought Eat Woman was funny. Absolutely lost at Eat Man. He got both. See, inclusion matters.
Equality.
Equality. HenricK the Wreck, I think it's time to rock and roll. What do you say, my man?
Oh yeah, because in our show, it's time to not drop bombs and screw up the experience, but it's time to drop other bombs.
Yeah,
because we got a game for you guys.
That's right. Let's get it.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Haste. Haste, or Haste Broken Worlds, is a single-player game by Landfall Games. Landfall Games is known for other games like Content Warning and Stick Fight the Game. So let's see how Haste falls into their lineup of games, starting first with the gameplay. The gameplay of Haste is a fast-paced runner. The core gameplay loop is to start running in a level and you'll build momentum as the level falls apart behind you. You can build momentum by landing cleanly on downward slopes, and the nicer of a landing, the more momentum you achieve. Landings also build up a meter to bring out your board, which can be used to give some extra momentum on top of it all. Levels are procedurally generated, and you navigate to them by first entering a shard and then picking levels from a map. The map is a pathway that eventually leads to a shard boss fight, and along the way, there is a shop to buy items, face challenges, encounter other characters, and more. Items you'll get usually consist of either providing you with heals or adding a boost to your overall speed. Health is just as important as speed, especially as levels start to make it a lot harder to dodge obstacles as you progress deeper. So now let's answer the question why we're here in the first place by going over the story. The story of Haste is centered around Zoe. Zoe is a mail courier who has been connecting worlds before things started collapsing. However, now that reality is falling apart, all she can rely upon is her speed and some friends she's made along the way to unravel the mystery of why the world is falling apart. Will the answer be clear or not? But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
Don't get too hasty now, Chris. I know that you love art style like this, like cel-shaded and, cartoony art styles. But, this isn't a AAA experience. It's really not. And, I mean, maybe sometimes...
I don't think anybody was anticipating it to be a AAA experience, but okay.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is it does kind of rear its head not being a AAA experience, namely with things like the story, right, Chris?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, at first glance, Haste Broken World looks like it's about sprinting through a collapsing universe at breakneck speed. And hey, momentum is satisfying, HenricK, but the minute you stop to breathe or, heaven forbid, read the dialogue, it all starts to unravel faster than the ground beneath Zoe's feet.
Which is a shame because, the gameplay, at least, is pretty fun. I still feel like the gameplay, it does kind of feel like the sort of game that you can jump in, do a couple levels here and there and then jump out and maybe not come back to immediately. You might just be doing this in your spare time in between other games. Mm-hmm. It's not really going to be like a main game that you're going to want to like dig your teeth into and be like, yes, I'm going to spend the next 10 hours playing this game. At least I didn't get that feel from it when I was playing the game, which is unfortunate because I wanted it to be a little more engaging, but maybe part of that is because the story feels a little lacking in comparison to the gameplay, where the gameplay does feel actually pretty polished. The story, on the other hand, it's not really there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the story, you're Zoe, a runner with anxiety issues and loyalty complex. She's chasing after your missing best friend while the universe crumbles, and you're told you have a crew while they're supposed to be helping you out. But honestly, half of them sound like they were written by a magic 8-ball. I mean, there's only really two characters that stood out to me. It was the captain and the shoe keeper. I mean, they seem remotely aware, HenricK, that they're in a video game, and the rest are just background noise with the text box. But the story wants to be emotional and mysterious, but it feels like a rough draft of like a sci-fi comics that someone wrote during finals week. I mean, you either skip the dialogue because it's irrelevant, or you read it and still come out confused. Either way, it's not the narrative hook that they thought it was, but you kind of nailed it. I mean, it's the gameplay that's the draw that's going to pull you in, not so much the story, but I feel like that's what could have opened up a few avenues to explore, because I don't know, like sometimes when I'm playing the game, it didn't feel like it was complete in a sense. I mean,
yeah, I get what you mean. And you kind of explained it a little nicely, saying this feels like a little bit of a rough draft because it's not an early access game, but it almost kind of feels like it is.
Feels like it does,
in a way, yeah. And this maybe also is exacerbated by the fact that the levels are procedurally generated, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because, that means that every time you go into a level, it's going to be a different experience. But at the same time, I always felt going into these levels like I wanted it to be a crafted experience, a crafted level that I could, over time, get experience in doing over and over, and then master it to a point of, I could just breeze through this level and have a ton of fun. That's the whole point of like the 3D Sonic games. They have crafted levels that you're just going to speed through after your 20th time through, and that's what's going to be fun. I didn't really feel the same
not some
thing
invisible
with this game.
pitfall.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I feel like now this is where Haste really gets your hopes up. The gameplay, right? I mean, I really do admire a game with blazing fast speed and satisfying jumps that make you feel like the Flash, right? When the level cooperates, but that's the issue. The levels never cooperate. I mean, everything, like you said, is like Elden Ring, Night Rain, that we know that's going to be coming up pretty soon, procedurally generated, which in theory sounds like a replayability gold mine, but I don't know, HenricK, but to me, it felt like the terrain was generated by like a green goblin. You're often punished for things outside your control. Invisible pits, sudden walls, impossible jumps. I don't know if it's a skill issue or just the challenge just don't match the test.
I mean, it maybe could be a bit of a skill issue, if we want to say that it is, but at the end of the day... Are you
saying that I need to accept betrayal?
But at the end of the day, I don't consider myself a god gamer or anything like that, but I did feel like there were points, like you're saying, where it's just like you go up against an impossible jump that you just cannot be prepared for.
Sometimes you don't see it coming. That's what's so frustrating. Like you said, like with sometimes with like Sonic 2 linear approaches, at least if you do fail, I guess you know what's coming. Maybe that was what they wanted to set out to be a bit different, but I don't think it quite works. I think that's the problem. Another thing I want to kind of add, HenricK, is what I felt like was like the biggest missed opportunity. Your best friend. It's like never highlighted. I mean, the emotional, Nadia, like the emotional core of the journey never even shows up in the gameplay. I mean, the writing tells you people care about Zoe and are helping her survive. The gameplay tells you that, Zoe is on her own and everyone else is just there to sell overpriced trinkets and vague encouragement. And then as you do these runs, you collect the crystals called sparks that work as the game's currency. So, it's a bit cliche. You can buy your items to, modify your character, like a big pumpkin to boost your max health or rocket boots to gain a speed upgrade, to name a few. But I don't know. Haste, the Broken World, is a gaming equivalent of a beautiful sports car with square wheels. And what do I mean by that? When it's moving, it's exhilarating, but the second something gogoes wrong, and I'm telling you, it will go wrong, the experience collapses like its own lore. So I don't know. To me, HenricK, I felt like it was a pause. The story lacks depth, and the level design is like the leftover dinner dressed up with new sauce. I mean, that's kind of how I vibe with it.
Yeah, this is a pause for me too, unfortunately. I do think it has the opportunity to come in with some more updates and, be a bit more of a solid experience. It's still a good game, just I don't think I'm going to be grabbing it and going back to it, so earnestly, so quickly because of
HenricK,
how limiting it feels.
Yes, I mean, HenricK, for a game about running fast, it's wild how quickly the enjoyment screeches to a halt. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like, it does come across like an early access game. Hopefully, let's not try to be totally harsh. I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's got that, some people might be caught in us, thinking in the moment like, hey, well, Crash Bandicoot never really had a story when we grew up as kids. Like, why are you holding that up again? I don't know. It just felt like there was a whole lot of potential with this game, and it comes across like a tablet iOS device video game. You almost feel like you want to move your tablet, to go up and flow, and just like you're playing those old school BMX games. You know what I mean? But hey, we want to know from you, the gamers, are you vibing with Haste Broken Worlds, or is this something to play something new? Let us know what's good. But HenricK the Wreck, we got so much here, more to discuss on Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show.
Yes, so
are you ready to rock and roll, my friend?
Oh yeah, you know me, Chris. I'm always ready for us to start patch notes.
That's right. Let's get it, baby. What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK the Wreck and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. Let's get it. We're creeping up on the halfway mark of the year, and the month of May usually acts like it's on a side quest, quite unbothered and just vibing. But don't worry, there's still plenty of video games on the horizon to keep your backlog sweating. So first up, you don't usually associate horror with relaxing, but the Midnight Walk somehow feels like a spooky bedtime story. If your bedtime story had monsters and you are slightly on fire, you will be playing as the Burnt One. You wander a dark world that looks like a haunted stop motion film brought to life. It's equal parts eerie and oddly chill, like sipping tea in a haunted dollhouse. If you haven't seen the gameplay, let's go ahead and take a look.
Man, talk about a Tim Burton game, right?
Yeah, I was like, what in the Caroline?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't that look freaking awesome? I think the best experience, I would imagine, playing the Midnight Walk, HenricK, would be a VR route.
Oh, yeah.
That's the cool part. The Midnight Walk is available in VR, where you can play as the Burn One, a creature with, those shriveled hands and a mysterious past, navigating this claymation style world. Yeah, I think we need more of that kind of stuff. And just as a
side note, this is just really cool that they modeled all those characters in actual clay and then scanned them into the game. So they have a whole shelf of these characters physically in their office that they scanned into the game. That's just really cool.
I love it. You know,
that's still done.
I feel like if you're like a fan of Little Nightmares series, this is going to be the game for you. You know, sometimes we don't always need fast paced action. Sometimes we just want to stay up late at night, just kind of chill a little bit, get a little jump scare here and there, but, you know, kind of take it easy. It's not going to actually attack us. Okay. The thing's going to be safe on the other end of the screen. And great news. The Midnight Walk is out now on PC and PlayStation 5. And there's another game that I know everybody needs to get ready to lace up with those blood-soaked boots in Doom the Dark Ages, as the Doomslayer goes full medieval on Hell's Face in a war so dark it makes your browser's incognito mode look pretty wholesome. We know the people. We know what you're doing, you know, when you're on that incognito mode. But armed with the god tier weapons, including the return of fan favorite Super Shotgun and the new Shield Saw, and yes, it sounds exactly what it sounds like. You're gonna chew through demons like a medieval beef jerky. It is the origin story packed with rage, carnage, and more metal than a blacksmith's playlist.
Man, I love me a good Doom game. So this is definitely something I'm going to be sinking my teeth into. I just wish that Mick Gordon was still doing the soundtrack, because he did such a great job with the first couple of games in this trilogy, and Bethesda did him so dirty, but we'll have to see how the music is in this one.
Yeah, I think, you know, with Doom the Dark Ages, you know, they're going to be introducing something a little bit new. They got a mecha slayer called Atlan, which can be piloted and used to rip through enemies and environments. You know, some of the mech that have been teased in previous Doom games are now pilotable in the Dark Ages. So for a lot of, you know, the old school fans, I think you're going to really embrace it. And even the new gamers that have never been, you know, even introduced into the Doom universe. Kind of the cool part about these kind of style of franchise games, you can really just jump in whenever, and it feels like its own story. And I know, I just have a really good feeling Doom the Dark Ages is going to carry on that same tradition. So Doom the Dark Ages launches on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series XS on May 15th. So mark your calendar. And I know also another fan favorite that's getting a lot of people excited is the Elden Ring universe is expanding. And this time you don't have to suffer alone. Night Rain lets you squad up for co-op chaos in a world where everything still wants you dead. But at least now you can blame your buddy when it goes wrong. Can't wait to hate on you, HenricK, because the best part, it won't cost an entire rune collection, just $40 and maybe your sanity, or me just cursing at my screen or yelling at HenricK the Wreck on the other end of the mic. What are you doing? Stick with the lobby, stick with the squad.
I feel like this is definitely them saying, you know what, we see you guys liked putting in multiplayer mods for Elden Ring and Dark Souls. So we took that to consideration, and now we're making our own multiplayer game that you can just buy from us.
Yeah, it still doesn't feel real. I mean, I know a lot of, you know, fans of Elden Ring are, like myself, very surprised, you know, that they, you know, are steering away from the single player focus, you know, from the original Elden Ring, and then having Night Rain emphasize on multiplayer, allowing players to team up and explore, you know, this procedurally, you know, generated world together is definitely something new. And I wonder if it's going to hold up. I really, really do. It's going to be very fascinating when people, all of us, jump on into the world all over again. So Elden Ring Night Rain launches on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series XS, and Xbox One on May 30th. And you notice one device that I didn't get to say? Sorry, Nintendo. Maybe. Yeah, maybe your games, time will come.
Out of these 3 games, which one is your go-to pick for this?
Yeah, let us know what's good. If there's a game that we're missing, let us know in the chat box. But HenricK, real young one says that Doom game looks pretty sick. See, we already got a gamer that's fully embracing the carnage of the Doom universe. But man, HenricK, break it down, because I know we got a lot of things to discuss on patch notes.
Oh yeah, and you just brought up Nintendo. You threw them a little bit of shade. But you know when Nintendo's throwing the shade back at you.
Oh, is that right?
Because they're making headlines before the Switch 2 even drops.
Yeah, that's true.
Not because the sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie title leaked.
Oopsie.
That did happen, but it's not because of that. It's something different. According to their updated end user license agreement, you don't actually own your console.
What?
Yeah, you heard that right. Yeah, you don't own it. Because first they came for your digital games.
Yeah, that's
true. And now they're side-eyeing your hardware like it's just a rental with attitude.
Or do I have the attitude?
We're all going to have attitude after this.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Is AI going to grow conscious too? How are they going to be able to identify who's bricking their consoles? But go on, HenricK.
The fine print basically says if you pirate, mod, or tinker too hard, and Nintendo knows that you are, well, they might just turn your shiny new toy into a very expensive paperweight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because gamers, of course, they had their own thoughts on what they thought about this. You know, it doesn't sound good, right?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right on in. I'm really curious to see what gamers have to say around the world. Nintendo is incapable of any level of moderation up until this point, and now I'm supposed to believe they're going to be reviewing millions of hours of game chat footage. And then a person follows up on that comment by saying they will use AI the same way Call of Duty does, I'm sure, and it's only if you opt in. Well, I mean, if you want to have the online gaming experience, don't you kind of have to
It's going to be a requirement to opt in if you want to do that. Yeah.
But then I feel like, the Microsoft Xbox community would say it even better. If you're kind of dealing with the modded console, probably shouldn't even. You probably want to keep it offline.
Yeah, and that
not trying to give advice to anybody.
that is probably what's going to happen. I'm sure people will still mod their Switch 2 when it comes out, but it's
just like how they do with their 3DS. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't brick a Steam Deck. Laughing out loud. Didn't someone replace the opening video on a Steam Deck with the Shrek movie? If I recall correctly, they had to sit through the whole movie before accessing the Steam Deck to fix it. It's not bricking, but this reminded me of that.
That was before they had the option in the settings to change the startup video.
Yes.
It was someone doing it of their own accord, and they just made a little brief mistake.
Yeah. And then ended up fixing it later on.
Yeah.
And then F Nintendo with over 3,000 ups. And then this combined with Nintendo filing patents for features that are already in Power World just so they can most likely try suing again? Yeah, no more Nintendo products for me. With a follow-up comment that reads, I don't even like Power World, and I'm on Power World's side on this. F Nintendo, I don't support piracy either until Nintendo went backwards. Well, Nintendo kind of wants to protect their asset. They don't want, they kind of want to be paid for their product, right? But then I get where people are saying, though. It's like, if I walk up to GameStop and I buy my Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, right when I buy it, I kind of feel like I can do whatever I want with it. I understand if I unscrew the back of it, maybe, the warranty expires. But isn't that my controlling, right, HenricK? That's how you feel.
I bought it.
At least.
I bought the hardware. Let me do what I want with it.
Seems like it would only make sense if, you were playing an online multiplayer game and you're like, oh, you're that douchebag that's hacking. Okay, we're going to brick you from doing an online experience, but not completely tarnish everything off.
In that instance, totally makes sense. Get that dude out of here. But,
right.
But if you're not harming anyone, it shouldn't be a problem.
Right. And then we get comments like this. Thing is, this will have little to no effect on sales because 99% of people aren't modding / hacking their consoles. The majority of users will see this headline and just keep scrolling, laughing out loud. I mean, I have no plans to jailbreak my Switch. And even if I did, I know better than to connect a modded system to the internet. We learned that lesson back in 2010 with modded Xboxes. I don't know. I mean, people always say that this would never happen, jailbreaking a console, but I don't know if I would ever doubt the youth. people always said that about the iPhones. And then remember when people went crazy jailbreaking those? I mean, you could literally play Game Boy games today on any kind of mobile device.
But also, who's really jailbreaking iPhones nowadays? And why is that? Well, because the features that the jailbreak would give you are on iPhones by default.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. But I mean, being able to...
a reason to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess being able to play games that are not supposed to be accessible through, Apple's App Store, but you're able to still play them anyways, if you catch my drift, Henrik. There are ways to be able to play Game Boy Advance games or Nintendo 64. I'm just saying as might not be the best example, but those are ways to be able to play on your phone without really supposed to be doing that. And then let's move on before we all get in trouble with this. And then here's basically the exact same wording from the PS5, right. And so as you can see in bold print, disabling use of this PS5 system online or offline. So the same kind of wording is also shown on Sony's end. So people are saying, why are we going after Nintendo so harshly? This is nothing new. But then you also get, for real, what the F happened to owning stuff in this world? In 50 years, it'll be illegal to own anything unless you're stupidly rich. And yeah, it's starting to, feel like we're starting to lose all kind of ownership when it comes to anything called video games. And so, HenricK, are you surprised to see that gamers are split on this? Like, just because Sony also says you don't own your console in their EULA, suddenly that makes it okay?
Well, it's an interesting conversation because of the fact that people are split on it. And I would say at the very end of the day, it really is, like one of those comments said, a very minor percentage of the people that will buy the console that actually mod it and, jailbreak it in a sense. But a lot of the conversation also is brought up when you're thinking about preservation of some of these games. And the reason I say that is because the only way to really preserve these games outside of, like I'm talking about like the games that are digital only, the only way to preserve them once those storefronts go down is through dumping the game files, which you can only do on modded consoles. So it has to be done if someone wants to preserve the games. It's just they really don't want you to do it because there's other things you can do with it, like, piracy and other methods.
Well, it's like that same joke they always say about Grand Theft Auto 6 not getting confirmation as of today that it's showing up on the PC on day one, because maybe they want you to enjoy the experience without people kind of tinkering with it. You know what I mean? With the modded community. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, HenricK. I mean, what's even more pressing is the inevitable discontinuation of online services, just like you said. Yeah. I mean, we saw it in last year, with the 3DS and the Wii U, making it really, really hard to kind of find those kind of style of games. I know Nintendo pushed an update to the 3DS consoles, which made them harder to jailbreak. And we covered it even last season. I mean, some people might have forgot, back in March, they were going after, emulator companies and even file sharing, storage websites like the French company called D-Storage, which, they stated was a significant part that played in the entire games industry. So yeah, there are definitely, a string of moves against piracy that include the shutdown of Switch emulator Yuzu and a lawsuit against a streamer who regularly played pirated copies of Nintendo games ahead of release, which we all understand that's a problem. I mean, that definitely kills the hype for people to get excited for new releases in video games. No one's saying that that's right, but where do you stand, the gamers? Do you find that this could be... Oh, you have something to say? Go for it.
This is one final comment. At the same time, guys, it is a little brazen to, make emulation of a current gen console a thing. I mean, it is possible because the Switch isn't that powerful, but it's kind of brazen. I mean, they're still making money in real time as you're making these emulators, and The whole thing is preservation.
Well, okay, you got me thinking.
Fights against that.
Okay, you got me thinking now, because remember, like I was telling you last week, you know, one of my side gigs, I see this dumpster in the distance, and I saw this Mac, right? And I got all excited. And I know, HenricK, you're like the real big techie, my guru. I don't need no chat GPT. I goes directly to you, my man. And so I go, hey, listen, like this thing looks pretty badass. What can we do with it? And then we come to find out, you know, the firmware is like so like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's like basically unusable if you try and use Mac OS on it.
Completely useless. And so you suggested, hey, you know, if you really wanted to have some fun with it, you really need to turn it into a Linux. Well, what if the EULA for Apple changes where, hey, you know, you turned Apple product into a Linux and we're going to brick it now? See where that becomes kind of problematic? You know, don't you want to kind of continue the technology that you still have if it still works, you know, to be able to be, you know, ready to rock and roll? Don't you think you can kind of toy around with it because you purchased it, you own it, or maybe you found it? I don't know. I mean, it's just,
you got a good point.
So, I mean, there's a lot, you know, there, but we want to know from you, the gamers, do you feel like this is totally wrong? That, you know, more and more, you know, gaming studios, developers out there are addressing, you know, nowadays that you don't actually own your games, you don't actually own your consoles, or do you think they need to, you know, figure this out at a, you know, at a better legal standpoint? And should the government get involved? Let us know what's good. But man, let's start to switch.
What's going on with that Video Game Hall of Fame, Chris?
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch gears. Yeah, the 2025 class of the World Video Game Hall of Fame just got announced, and it's stacked like a late 90s sleepover. And the winners of this year's Lifetime Achievement in Digital Mayhem are Defender, the game that taught us failure; Tamagotchi, the reason we all fear responsibility; GoldenEye 007, the OG friendship destroyer; and Quake, which gave birth to competitive shooters and probably your first gaming headache. And with the lineup of finalists that are included, you know, Angry Birds and Age of Empires, it was anyone's game, like literally. And so let's see how the internet reacts before the hot takes turn nuclear bomb. Just like the guy at the top of the show. All right, let's move along. Let's dive right on into it. So the first comment that we got here is, it hasn't? No, but Barbie fashion designer is, and no, I'm not joking. In 1996, at a time when the most games were marketed towards male players, Barbie fashion designer proved that a game designed for girls could succeed, widely acknowledged as the first market success in games for girls. In 2 months, the game sold over 500,000 copies, outselling contemporary market leaders like Quake and Doom. Honestly, it is a pretty good reasoning for why it should be there. Why it took so long for Quake to get there is the real question. Why did it take so long for Quake to get there?
It's a good question. I mean, not all of them, but so many games that you, the viewer, play have their origins in Quake. And I'm not talking about game design. I'm talking about the engine, the underlying features of the game. A lot of them tie themselves back to Quake.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, it's definitely, you know, if you've never tried it before, yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to play, you know, today. But, you know, you got to acknowledge, you know, the impact that it has, especially in the esports community. The next comment that we got here is, GoldenEye was my first FPS game and will always be a top 10 game for me. I played the F out of it before all those years, 2000 to 2004. I recently played the game again after 20-ish years and still knew the levels perfectly. Can't say that for many other games. Yeah, I feel like there's always a calling to get GoldenEye 007 remastered. Do you think it would actually hit?
And they've done it a couple times, but it's just not really hit the same.
Yeah, I don't think it would actually hit the same. I think it would be more of those kind of like goofy matters where, like, you know, where people go into those creative modes of Fortnite and let's say, you know, they remastered a map. Maybe it might be kind of fun to, you know, jump into that kind of style experience. But yeah, I don't know if it would quite hit the same, but man, I got so many awesome memories playing GoldenEye 007 at grandma's house. Oh my. Yeah. So many beloved memories. And then we also get, I cannot recommend the Strong Museum enough. Place is amazing. And then well-deserved, Defender has fan clubs still to this day. Yeah, that Defender is definitely a game that will test your patience early on in your child adolescent years. Wouldn't you say, Henry?
I'll learn today.
Yeah, you gotta learn today. And then the next one we got here is, I don't know what the Video Game Hall of Fame is, but if it didn't already have Quake on it for at least 25 years, it means nothing to me. So some people are kind of harsh that the Video Game Hall of Fame has been pretty slow to bring Quake in. And I was about to say, Quake is undeniable classic. Is it, HenricK? Was that something? I mean, I do remember you saying when we previously had this conversation that you felt like this was a strong headliner to be the inductee this year. And can you kind of speak on why that's still that case today?
Well, I mean, everyone knows it's Big Brother Doom, because it's the same company that did it. But when they switched over to working on Quake, they took the Doom engine, iterated on it, made it better. It actually was showing things in 3D and not like a 2D sprite that would follow your view and make it look like it's facing you all the time. They did more of the 3D stuff. And like I was saying, a lot of games have their engine's origins in Quake. And I'm talking things like the Source engine, I'm pretty sure is part of the Quake engine family. And so
well, you remember we even showed last season. Remember we showed last season that, you know, AI companies are starting to utilize, you know, Quake to be able to self-generate on its own. You know, they're trying to claim that it's not the actual game source code, but it could still develop it. Wow, the technology that Quake is still bringing to us today. I mean, it's quite insane. And then kids today will never understand just how insane the Tamagotchi hype was. I don't even know what it would compare to today, other than perhaps when TikTok suddenly became a thing. There were classmates that would come in with like 6 of them, and they would keep beeping constantly. And then most of the students would have at least one or one of many knockoffs. So there was constant beeping. They ended up getting banned at our school very quickly. Probably should have banned the squirrel tails. But anyways, crazy how smartphones are so much worse and yet took so long to get banned in schools. No wonder children are growing up claiming to have ADHD. Oh my. But yeah, you know, we definitely, you know, that's before we had Nintendo Pet, we had Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the last comment here is story time. My dad and grandpa played this game religiously from like 99 until grandpa passed away in 2017. They had a setup in the basement with 2 recliners and 2 TVs with signal splitter. Wow, this is an OG. I can tell you. I can tell already. Radar off and cardboard bungee strapped over the opponent's half of the screen so they couldn't screen cheat. 1 versus 1 temple grenade launchers only for close to 20 years. Dad would go over on his lunch breaks to quote unquote shoot war, as they called it. Always heard laughing and yelling and cursing from the basement. Good times. Miss that old fart. I still have his cartridge with Dad written Sharpie on it. Yeah, I feel like the Nintendo 64 days were like the only days you would really see somebody actually put a permanent Sharpie marker, you know, on a cartridge. You know, if you did it on anything else, you'd be like, why? You just ruined it. No, that actually, it's like Andy in Toy Story. You knew that meant something. That's mine, damn it. So, you know, these are some pretty iconic, you know, games that have now been introduced into the World Video Game Hall of Fame. So, HenricK, were you shocked to see Angry Birds get flung out of the Video Game Hall of Fame like a pig in a slingshot? Or were you shocked to see Age of Empire, Frogger, or NBA 2K left on the sidelines? And just to kind of give people kind of a little bit of an understanding, here we are. There's some of the games that didn't make the cut.
Yeah, I was not surprised that Angry Birds did not end up in the running, just because when you look at the other games, Angry Birds, while it was very influential, I don't think it was as influential as some of these other ones.
I know we've kind of tussled about this before. I kind of thought Angry Birds was going to be there. I mean, you know, especially when it developed.
I know. Your argument was that the movie was successful,
well, the movie,
right?
It had over billions of downloads on, you know, mobile devices. It really brought in, you know, the next generation of mobile gaming. I truly felt I was a big fan of Age of Empires. I was quite surprised it didn't quite make it there. But then again, you know, it will have its dues. You know, I think this is actually quite a fantastic lineup of 4 awesome games. It was really, really tough to choose this year. I think the only one I kind of maybe questioned a little bit was Mattel Football. I guess I kind of understand that it brought the forefront of, you know, sports gaming to the industry, but, you know, you don't really think of Mattel Football. You think EA Sports,
Madden.
right? Yeah, Madden.
Yeah.
So like, I think Madden would definitely be, something that you think of first. But someone might have to correct me whether Madden's even there or not. Cannot remember at this moment of taping. But you get classics like Harvest Moon, NBA 2K. Golden Tee, which has brought us, the awesome, gyro ball that we all get to slide at the arcade cabinet. So, there's a lot of great selections out there. So just to kind of recap, the Hall of Fame each year recognizes arcade, console, computer, handheld, and mobile games that have had staying power and influenced the video game industry or pop culture. So, with that being said, does this hold up? Do you feel like there was a game on that list that we just showed you that was like, wow, how did that not get listed in the top 4 out of the 12 games? Let us know. What score is this pretty solid? We want to know. But HenricK, let's end off the show with the bang, man, because I love these kind of topic of conversations.
Yes. Reddit is back at it again, stirring the digital pot. And this time, a gamer asked the question, what's a common game mechanic that you intentionally never use? Keyword, intentionally.
Yeah, like it's there. Yeah. It's accessible to use, but you're not quite vibing.
You're like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
I'm cool.
Responses in this thread rolled in faster than an Oblivion guard taking an arrow to the knee, or maybe in Skyrim.
Yeah.
And let's just say, some of y'all really hate crafting. I kind of do too. I get that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of it. I think of Hogwarts Legacy, right? Oh my God, all those damn potions, and then running back to go have to buy, the spell. Oh yeah, it's a headache. But yeah, I like this comment here, photo mode, which that's actually really, really funny because Death Stranding 2 is about to be coming out. Hideo Kojima has already been hyping up that oh wow, we're gonna have like the best photo mode scene in never.
Yeah.
And then it's like, is anybody actually going to use it, HenricK?
I probably won't. Maybe I'll pop in it to see what it's all about, considering all the hype, but I'm not going to be spending a ton of time in there. Never really
like
do.
He says, I really have no desire to take pictures in a game. And like a follow-up comment that reads, I don't even look at the in real life pictures I take on my phone that often. I don't understand what I would do with the pic from a video game. Clearly, a lot of people do it. Just isn't for me. And then you get comments like this. Mostly insert random element, resistant potion. Okay, that seemed like that was an attack on Bethesda, right? And then things like that, especially if they have things that like decimals and percentage factors tied to them, kind of like Haste, Broken Worlds, right? Kind of all that kind of style, same element. And you're like, is it really affecting, the flow of the ride? I don't quite think so. But then again, PvP, unless it's a game where it's an inaugural part like League of Legends or EVE Online, if it's a single player game with optional PvP, I never do it. Even in Rust, I only play PvE servers, player versus everyone. So yeah, I mean, do you vibe with that, HenricK, or are you just like, nah, you're on your own?
It really depends on the game. And if I am playing a game that I feel like I can go and destroy some guys, in a PvP setting, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go maybe sweat it up a little bit even.
Or not all games, but in Soul Likes, I never use consumables except Estus. I'm too lazy to menu during fights. It's just my fist and I. PvP feels like
I do that too. Yes. I every time that I've played a Souls game, not only do I kind of forget that there's other consumables, but I don't use them. If I can't kill the boss without the consumables, maybe that's a skill issue.
Oh, I thought you were relating with the bottom comment. You drink a 6-pack and you start swinging on people like a bar fight. Oh, okay, gotcha. You stick it to the video game element. And then you also get, for me, it's crafting in general, unless it's a core mechanic you can't avoid. It tends to get tacked on to a lot of RPGs as an afterthought. If I'm going to get in the fancy sword later or need to get out of my way when I just want to progress the plot, why bother? Yeah, it does kind of feel like that. Like every RPG that's getting developed, it's like, oh gosh, we totally forgot. We went this far into development. Do we need a cauldron?
Don't you remember that era of single player games in the mid 2000s where every game came out that was single player and it had a multiplayer mode?
Yeah. Almost always.
Same thing.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like
we threw that in there for you guys. You know, have fun if you want.
Yeah, it reminds me of like The Last of Us. You know, the very first game. People always forget that they had that multiplayer element. And it's like, no one asked for this, but we have it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the last comment we got here is, does multiplayer count? Kind of what you're insinuating. I just want to play a game and enjoy the story. Never had a desire to compete with strangers. What about co-op with zero competition? I used to hate multiplayer games, but realizing there's an entire world beyond PvP expanded my horizons. You know, I don't know. I mean, sometimes, you know, Henrik, when I'm playing like Fortnite, for example, I always want to play ranked with the homies, but then I get some of my buddies that are just like, I don't know, man, the competition's too stiff for me. And I go, you are such a wanker. And I know it's not a game mechanic.
You're saying you're going to go into ranked. When you bring up ranked, you got a certain mood that takes over the group, you know. It's like, okay, we're gonna be sweating tonight.
I know, like, trust me, I'd be doing all the command calls. I'm like, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, do you hear me? Look alive. But Henrik, what game mechanic do you never use, never touched, never tried, and totally ghosted in gaming?
You know, I really feel like it ends up being like hunting or like survival stuff that this comes out the most for me. And it's the fact that I don't like crafting, just like a lot of these people are complaining about. And it is a shame because there's some really great survival games out there, and the integral part of survival games is the crafting, obviously. You know, if you don't craft in a survival game, it's not really a survival game.
But like Red Dead Redemption 2, you know, running around hunting.
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly why every time that I've played Minecraft with the boys, what do? Well, I build the houses, you know, build the structures, but I'm not crafting stuff. I'm just building.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, because like I think like I brought up Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, you get some of those like open world massive games where sometimes it's like you got to discover it on your own, the certain location to find the certain plant or the certain animal, and you know you got to keep trekking along on your journey, and you better pray to God that they got a fast travel point, or you're really gonna be hating this game if you really got to go all the way out to the northeast just to go and kill a boar just to bring them back to be able to build this new suit. For Arthur, I don't know. It's been a while since I've played that game, but I'm with you. The crafting's definitely one thing. For me, it's the cooking. I would rather be fishing in Fortnite than spend 1 minute even pretending that I'm Gordon Ramsay in the middle of a dragon apocalypse. I mean, that is just like the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, every time a game says combine 3 apples and match the deer meat to make a stamina stew, I'm like, why, Henrik? What's
the Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom fans are seething right now.
Why? When I just looted 10 healing potions off a skeleton who died 600 years ago. I'm like rich off enemy leftovers. I pillage bandits. I rob the peasants, and I mug NPCs for coins. I don't need to cook. That's Skyrim for you, baby. So there you had it. But like,
at least in a game like that, you have the choice of, just surviving off the leftovers, like you said.
Well, video games can be a very teachable moment. And how do I come to that assessment, Henrik? If let's just put it this way. If I wanted to make stew, I'd go outside and disappoint my actual family. So like no one wants to see me cooking, so I ain't gonna do it in game.
Don't try Chris's cooking.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. At least I won't over salt, over pepper on every meal. But then again, we want to know from you, the gamers, what's that game mechanic that you never used, never touched, or just never tried in general? And is it useless, or is it just not for your gameplay style? Let us know what's good. But man, this has been such a blast. Season 9 has been electrifying so far for Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. And we just want to thank you, the gamers, for always tuning in live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because without your support, gamers, this show would not be possible. And so for anybody that has not liked, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel, there you are, in all its glory, the QR code. And HenricK the Wreck, let them know what's good.
Yes, bask in the glory of my QR code. You see it on your screen, so go ahead and give it a scan and go to my YouTube channel, watch some videos, leave some comments. I'm looking out. I'll respond. Even if you're trash talking, I'll respond.
I know. It's always good to hear from you, the gamers. You guys always make this show super lively, even with the comments off air. Always juicy stuff. But then again, we want to thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we will see you soon, fam. Peace.
See ya.